Hey, y'all. Good afternoon. Coming to you all today at a different time, trying something a little bit different today. I hope that everyone is having a pretty good day, a pretty good afternoon, right? So, again, we're trying something new. So, we're excited to see how this might go going live during the day. And what just becomes of this. We're trying something a little bit different in February. So, please do, as you're checking us out, please do say hello. Right when you get here, let us know where you're checking in from. I'm the one trying to say thank you because I always appreciate you all checking in, spending some time. It is most appreciated. So we'll wait a little bit. Let me take a sip of water while we're waiting and see if we have a couple people come join us for this dialogue today. This multiple intelligences. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I mean, I really nerd out about this one, seriously. So we'll wait a few moments and see. All right, we'll wait a few moments and see if we have a few people join. But again, multiple intelligences is one of my favorites. So good conversation happening. Hey, W. Bergeron, thank you. Thank you for joining. We'll just wait a couple more moments. All right, before we really get into it, and so again, just looking at the shift. So we're trying something different, maybe in February, seeing what happens at different times, going live during the day. And, appreciate you all being gracious and joining us, rolling with us while we adjusted this week. And really speaking of adjustments, especially if you're checking in from Central and North Texas, y'all, how are y'all doing? Right? How are y'all doing? Because this intensity and the duration for this recent winter storm, it caught us all by surprise, didn't it? We did not know. We did not know it was going to be quite like this. Um, Someone yesterday said that it was giving them pandemic vibes, and I said, "Yikes!" But I also understood that, though, right? Because suddenly everyone was home, right, for an extended amount of time with different needs and requirements. And if you work from home, you're still expected to work. So I understood what she meant. I did. And especially, even if we thought it was just going to be a couple days, most of us have been in place due to the winter storm for 4 days now. So it's definitely very different. So these different spaces and these different needs that we're talking about, we're going to get into that because a lot of those different needs that probably showed up big time, I'm going to say, during this winter storm, right? It's really driven by multiple intelligences. So it's driven by people's tendencies, what they're good at, how their creativity is demonstrated, all those things. And if you're new to Holistic Fluency, if you're new to the page, our content, we welcome you to really explore and learn more about holistic fluency and how we add value in many and almost any space. All right. So, some recent media highlights that we've had recently include a few different podcasts. So, DFW Den Radio, Mamapreneur Podcast, Get Authentic with Marcus Ogden, and Circle 31 International Women's Ministry. And we're truly grateful, truly grateful. So check those out, y'all. We have links in the bio to make sure you can check them out, that you get there. Because listen, some gems were dropped, okay? And we spilled some tea for sure. And let us know what you think. Send us a DM and let us know what you think after you listen to it, right? So, this social emotional agility work that we try to emphasize, that we're challenging and doing our best to model, is an ongoing process, y'all. We call it a practice because that's exactly what we have to do. It's like Pilates, right, which is one of my new favorite things. It's like martial arts and a lot of other experiences where people say, oh, it's a practice. It's because you have to be intentional and spend time on it, right? It takes some time. So, again, thank you for checking us out. And please remember to catch our future lives. Make sure that you're subscribed and you're all in our business so you know what's happening as we move forward this month. So, we are going to cover love languages and Myers Briggs personality and a few surprises later this month as we continue to deepen that awareness. All right. You all, If you're familiar with any of those resources, right? We said love languages, Myers-Briggs, and we're getting into multiple intelligences in just a moment. Please drop a book emoji if you've heard those, right? Drop them in the comments. So, like the adolescents would say, right, we're growing our brains, we're in our big brain behavior. So we're growing in our relational capacity. Drop a book emoji. All right. Hey, hey, Tangerine. All right. Melanie Bella said, my daughter's trying to get me into Pilates. Dr. Mel, I absolutely love Pilates. It's literally my new favorite thing, right? Any moment I can, I'm scheduling and I'm going. Seriously, it's my new favorite. Tangi, love languages. Yeah. So Dr. Mel, try our class. They normally have your intro class that they do. Try it and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. All right. I see some books dropping. Very cool. Very cool. All right, y'all. So we're ready. We're ready. We also have, oh, almost forgot. So if you're catching this on the replay, y'all, please do let us know because I love my replay renegades. Make sure you put hashtag replay. Let us know, right? We left lurking behind in 2022. We don't do that anymore. We have some upcoming webinars, math in 3D and mirrors and echoes, y'all. So again, stay tuned because we have some good things, some really good things coming up. All right. So multiple intelligences, again, is one of my personal favorites, y'all. I really get extra excited about this, right? And I really was introduced to it. Here's the backstory. In high school, it was a high school sociology class. Shout out to Miss Steinbauer, right? So we read a book that was written by the creator of this theory. It was written by Howard Gardner. And let me say this, full pause, y'all. The fact that I said I read the book. Now listen. I actually read the whole book. So again, in the height of notes written by Cliff and Spark, right? Ha, y'all know I'm corny. So Cliff Notes and Spark Notes. I actually read the whole book, y'all. So, I mean, I'm a nerd about a lot of things, but especially when it comes to gaining understanding of people, their motivations, just frustrations, challenges, tendencies, all those things. That's my jam. So to say I was intrigued is a severe understatement. So I read the whole book, right? My goodness. So fast forward a little bit. I actually created a curriculum for a district. We named it Teen Leadership. And the themes of each unit was basically making sure we were setting them up for success as they were developing adults, as they were developing into full adulthood, right? Each year, though, I always sought to improve what was happening in the course, in the class, getting that feedback from the young people, observations, all those different things. But Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, that was one of the adjustments over the years, and it stuck. It made a very big impression. It was a very big deal. So let me tell you how powerful it was to watch people grow in their awareness, right? Just for their awareness to their self-awareness first. Let me say that specifically. For their self-awareness to deepen, and just really that they were challenged and challenging different perspectives. So, especially for the youth, so I can focus on more than one thing at a time and maybe be good at different things, right? So me, I'm like, yes, why choose? Be the double, triple, quadruple threat, right? So also, y'all, then maybe if someone had thought about trying something, right? They're like, I kind of wanted to try, but I'm curious, but I don't know how it's going to go. But they definitely were more willing to take that risk at that point. Yeah. Okay. Y'all, hold on for just a minute, y'all. But you're a little too loud. All right. Yeah, I told y'all we've been in for 4 days. So my little person is home with me. He's a very happy fellow. You may have heard him singing, right? So here we go. So also, it never failed that a handful of young people each year would arrive at this, this jolting thought that, what, we have about 8, if we have these 8 multiple intelligences, and we're going to get into the 8 in just a minute, then at school, Ms. Jones, it seems like we really focus on 1 out of the 8, they're logic smart, because we take the test a certain kind of way, right? Those high stakes state tests are all a certain kind of way. So just encouraging them, and a good reminder that Yes, it might be measured one way, but you use your type of smart to leverage and strengthen your other areas. So that was always a big learning moment, a big learning experience, right? So the overview. So we're about to go through the 8 types of smart that Gardner outlined and referred to as intelligences. We're going to do a basic profile for each, and then we'll get into how it can show up in different spaces daily, right? The workspace, home life, and the classroom. So if you're ready, please type ready in the chat, y'all. And I'm rubbing my hands, my Birdman hand rub. I'm ready. Are y'all ready? Please type ready in the chat if you're ready to go. All right. So here we go. So we are ready to rock and roll. So these 8 types. First is visual spatial, and sometimes people say picture smart, like they're good at puzzles, recognizing patterns easily, and enjoy painting, drawing, visual arts. They like to interpret charts and they interpret graphs very well. So this can be your architect, your artist, or your engineer, right? Hey, hey, Simply Taj, thank you for joining. Clark Kent, hey, hey, y'all, thank you for joining. All right, so we're ready, we're rolling. Y'all, so that's visual spatial. So after that, we also have linguistic verbal. So sometimes, right, with the smaller people, we say word smart. So these are people that remember spoken and written info very well. They might use humor to tell their stories, right? They're a good storyteller. They explain things well, and they enjoy debate and persuasive speeches, right? We know some people like this. Tell the truth, right? In your family, in your workspace, we're talking about. You know some people like this, y'all. That's because one of their demonstrated intelligence, one of their types of multiple intelligence, is this linguistic verbal, this word smart. So this could be a journalist, a lawyer, a teacher, and I'm going to say, Tangeray says she loves when I talk about multiple intelligences. Listen, you know how I get about it. You know how I get, right? So and I'm also gonna say y'all I'm gonna say old school hip hop artists. I do feel some kind of way about new rap. I'll be honest, but a lot of the old school hip hop artists had very good command of the language. So they definitely had very good linguistic verbal intelligence, right? Okay. Right. Some people might come for me, but I said what I said. I feel how I feel about it. So also the logical mathematics, right? So logical and mathematics, we call that logic smart sometimes. So they enjoy abstract thinking, excellent problem solving skills. They can solve complex computations pretty quickly, and they like to do experiments. Now, who do you know, right? If you're an educator, you know some people in work life, right? Or there are some people that you go to if it's a complicated situation to try to work through and figure out that this person normally has some good ideas, y'all. That's a certain amount of creativity even that goes into that logic, that critical thinking. It really is really creativity. Okay. This could be an accountant, a computer programmer. This can be someone that is very interested in the IT route, right? So a lot of our younger people are into coding and certain kind of games that have to do with coding. So they're getting into and really leaning into that logic space, right? So kinesthetic intelligence. So this is body smart, we call it. So maybe they're skilled at dancing and sports. They enjoy creating with their hands. They have excellent physical coordination because everybody does not, right? I used to trip a lot as a kid, but they remember best by doing versus seeing or hearing. So let's stop and think for a moment. Okay, so Tangeray said, yes, kinesthetic, that's me. She said that's her. So please do, y'all, if you're hearing any of these intelligence descriptions, these profiles, you say, you know what, I do have some of those tendencies. Please do drop it in the chat. So thank you, Tangeray. Right? So for these kinesthetic, body smart people, there's a couple of surprises, right? Because sometimes people might think, okay, well, I'm not particularly skilled at dancing or sports, and I don't like to build stuff. Maybe my coordination is not that great, right? Reporting for duty. It depends. But it also has to do with your body language, right? How well are you at presenting yourself? How well are you? How well do you interpret and understand other people's body language? Y'all, this goes under still the body smart. So another, besides like a builder or a sculptor, right, or a dancer, actors also fall in this category, right? Because they have great command and control of how they present and then interplaying and going off of other people's body language, right? So, but also for this quick mark educator life, educators are very aware of this kinesthetic, this body smart intelligence, because a lot of these two younger generations, Gen Z and alpha generation, they tend to be visual kinesthetic, right? That combination at a very high rate. And I'm gonna pause and say this: if you missed some of the last conversations that we spoke about generations in general, and then we honed in on Gen Z and alpha generation, go back and catch those lives, seriously. Because we said some really, really beneficial and insightful things. It was a great dialogue. It really was. So Tangeray says that, yeah. So also writing. Writing is kinesthetic. It helps to lock it in. It helps to lock it in. It's another way of doing something. It sure is. For sure, for sure. So again, sometimes that can be surprising for some people, right? That even also the actor falls underneath that. We had some people, it was a particular story, right, from the classroom where one student was like, I'm not understanding. We did the profile. Miss Jones, I have a very high mark, a very high rating for this body smart. And he was like, sports is not my thing. They always choose me last in PE. Um, he was perplexed. But the reality is, then he landed the lead role in the school's one act play. So that's how we were able to make sure that made sense for him, right? All right, y'all. Musical intelligence. So, musical intelligence, music smart, is the ability to recognize musical patterns and tones easily, right? Remembering songs and melodies. So, let me pause and say it's not necessarily that you are a musician or can sing well, but it's also just about the recognizing the patterns and having a rich understanding of musical structure, of rhythm, and of notes. So, it's not okay. Well, I sing well, so this is, and I'm just saying hypothetically, not me. Okay, but if I sing well, then I automatically have a musical intelligence. Not necessarily, not necessarily. And just because you maybe don't sing as well, right? You sing from your heart, right? That it doesn't mean that you don't have a musical intelligence. Okay, so a couple of things here. So classroom life, y'all, these are your desk tappers, the people that tap on the desk, right, with pencils, their fingers, coins, right? Shout out to old school with the coins, the quarters on the desk, using absolutely anything. Y'all, this reminds me of a video. Whenever I talk about multiple intelligence, I love to talk about a video I saw with Patti LaBelle and Dolly Parton, actually. It was Patti LaBelle and Dolly Parton, and someone was interviewing them, and they made up a song on the spot, right? And literally to keep the beat for each other, they both had acrylic nails, and they were using their nails to keep the beat for each other. And just on the spot, just on a whim. I mean, that's just one of my favorite stories to share at that particular moment when we talk about this, because clearly, like, yes, obviously both of the ladies have legendary voices, but truly that musicality is just in them. They clearly have a musical intelligence, right? They just play it off of each other, and then let alone using nails to drop the beat. What? What? Okay. So this could be a music teacher, a composer, a singer, a producer, right? Um, Interpersonal intelligence, y'all. This is the people smart. So they communicate well verbally, right? They're skilled at nonverbal communication as well. So again, some of that overlap with the body smart, because this also has to do with body language. but they're able to see situations from multiple perspectives. Now, let me stop and say this: interpersonal intelligence, especially that piece, to see situations and scenarios from multiple perspectives, that is probably one of the most, let me say this, that's the area that needs the most development that we found in this work, right? In this social emotional work, that a lot of things come down to not just a lack of awareness, but it's a lack of awareness because people aren't able to see a situation for a perspective outside of their own. And so thus we run into a lot of the, unnecessary issues and challenges that may come up when people are interacting. So that is where a lot of the work that's where a lot of time is spent, really working on that interpersonal and the piece of interpersonal, so that we're training ourselves, our brains, and our interactions, so we're able to see scenarios from multiple perspectives, because that's the most lacking. Because people that are adept at that, they do well with that, they can help solve conflicts amongst others. Conflict is going to happen because conflict is basically just disagreeing, but the conflicts don't have to be as long or as drawn out or as explosive in things, right? Because we've been working on those interpersonal skills and interpersonal intelligence. And this can be anyone from a salesperson to a politician to a counselor to a philosopher to a psychologist, right? Any of these. So, literally, another funny moment in class, right? Some years ago, a student said, "A philosopher, so some people just get paid to think?" And I said, "Yes, most definitely, right? Some people get paid to think, and other people get paid to think about how and why other people think." Imagine that those are jobs. I know it's a basic way to explain it, but imagine that, yeah, because there's so much value in that. Again, because it's a great area of need in general, but in all these different levels of community that we talk about, right? So the district level, in different workspaces, right, in homes, that's often what needs the most work. All right, y'all, a couple more. Intrapersonal, so self-smart. Self-smart. So being able not only to just analyze your strengths and weaknesses, but enjoying and just really, and clearly this is me, right? Enjoying analyzing theories. Analyzing meaning being able to apply them and see how it really looks, sounds, and moves throughout life, right? So excellent self-awareness and understanding the basis for their own feelings, right? So we're way past sad, mad, and glad, but understanding also where those different emotions, right, when we name them, where they come from. And this can be a writer, philosopher, a theorist, or scientist most of the time. So, naturalistic intelligence. Yeah, these are nature smart people, and this is not me. Let me say that. This is not at all. So, I think this is me too. Which one, Tangerine? Which one do you think? Interpersonal or intrapersonal? I know that naturalistic, nature smart is not me, right? And I see some of my family is on here and they know very well that no, that is not Anika at all. But let me tell you who it is, okay? So those that are interested in topics like botany or zoology and biology, so they like to categorize and classify and group information pretty easily. And they dislike when things don't have a connection to nature. Okay, they maybe enjoy hiking. I was talking with someone the other day, and she talked about liking to go for hikes. So she was missing that from being at home during this winter storm. Okay, hiking, camping, and exploring the great outdoors. For some people, y'all, this is a wonderful time. This is a wonderful time, but not I, said the cat. Right, that's not me. So again, this awareness, knowing, knowing your intelligences and knowing your lanes, y'all, a big deal. Okay, so Tangeray said, wait, what's the difference again? I thought it was interpersonal. Okay, so interpersonal, again, is like the awareness and your communication with other people, those interactions. So being able to understand, like one of the big pieces, being able to understand a situation from multiple perspectives, right? But intrapersonal is your self-awareness. So being very clear on what you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, where it come from. Okay. Tangeray said, "No, I'm not a nature. I'm not a nature person at all, but I do categorize." Well, yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna say because I know you are an educator, so between the categories and always seeking to draw connections, that's definitely educator life, I think. So, not a nature girl. Tangeray says she's okay, interpersonal. Cool, cool. All right. So, y'all, with that being said, the last thing for the jobs for nature, it could be conservationists, people who dedicate their life to that work, farmers, which we need more of, right? Or even gardeners. So now we're going to look at, if those were the 8 basic profiles, we're going to talk a little bit more, just a little bit more for a bit, how these different intelligence types, how they show up, right? In these different places, we talked about workspaces, home, right? The classroom. And then from there, we're also going to just talk about, and just a little bit, because I want to make sure that people that maybe are, again, dealing with being all at home in a space, just kind of how people are processing this, right? How people are processing it. Because like someone said, it was giving her pandemic-ish vibes. And I said, ooh, yikes. But I also understood that for sure. I also understood that. No worries, Tangerine. No worries, Tan. All right, y'all. So verbal linguistic. So in the classroom life, maybe they really enjoy when the story's being read. They like to give oral presentations, right? They do a lot of writing. I think Tangerine mentioned writing earlier. Also, as kinesthetic, because that's both. But then they also like to be on podcasts and listen to podcasts and debate. So we can already hear some of the workplace issues, right? So in the workplace, we need to make sure that we're having those certain ground rules for the dialogue, because there's some people, they have a tendency to want to debate. It's not always the best time, right? So making sure that ground rule is set. But then also the oral presentations, maybe they're the one like, hey, I'll present it, that's fine. They aren't necessarily interested in designing and putting together the actual presentation, but I'll talk about it, that's fine. And maybe they listen to a lot of podcasts, right? A lot of people are interested in listening to podcasts. So logical, mathematical. Really quickly, classroom life, it could be where they like to play with puzzles, especially the littles, and then like more difficult and maybe digital puzzles the older you get. They are interested in scientific method and just those what if kind of scenarios. Y'all, that shows up in the workspace as well. So if you have the colleague that's sometimes like, well, what if we tried this, right? So that willingness to try and kind of go through the process, that they are willing to see what can happen, right? Or they feel it's costly to not discover all the possibilities, then that is one of the ways logic mathematical shows up in the workspace. So when I was thinking about okay, Tangerine, thank you. So when I was thinking about how this may have shown up during, um, again, the winter storm, etc., then it may be a bit difficult, because depending on if they had access maybe to some computer games to try out, if they have access to different equipment to try out, different experiments that made them curious, right? Or maybe they watch some videos of other people doing experiments, but a lot of the doing and the questioning, that maybe they will want to have that conversation, that everyone or maybe no one was available to have those pieces of interaction at that time. So that could be hard on them in those spaces, in those times. Visual spatial. Okay, in the classroom, it can look very much like where people like to use, we call them graphic organizers, right? So you think about your Venn diagram, a flow chart, all those things, that really helps those types of people, well, people with that type of intelligence rather, learn and really hang on to the learning, which work life. Someone could be the person that says, this process, right, what we want them to do or how we expect it to look. It would be helpful maybe if there was some kind of checklist, if there was some kind of visual for them to refer back to, right? So maybe they're the person that makes those suggestions. Like let's create a diagram for them for some reminders. Um, Again, classroom life, maybe the visual spatial also really tend to Minecraft like activities. And so for Minecraft, we're finding a lot more connections and things that we can do in terms of the academic life and actually learning about social emotional skills as well. Musical intelligence, work life, maybe a little easier to find because it might be not just where there's an interest in music, but where it seems that there has to be music played as part of their workday to kind of set the tone for the day, to kind of provide that soundtrack for them, right? Um, Classroom life, again, so this they're basically listening to music really has a deep and purposeful like anchor for them truly, right? They might play instruments, they might not, right? That's kind of depends. But often this creating of songs and rhythms and patterns, that's definitely a thing for people with musical intelligence. So this body kinesthetic intelligence, the body smart. So we talked about in earlier with the profile, the body language. So work, one of the work styles, work types that connects to this intelligence, we said was salespeople, but it definitely could be really any kind of business owner. Because when you think about it to a certain extent in business, you're always presenting, always selling yourself, quote unquote, as you're speaking about, talking about your products, your business, whatever it is. So we can say business owners or business people in general, right? It is great for them to have this type of intelligence or to develop it for sure. But then also, because it shows up again in those presentations, in maybe if it's a construction place, also if it is a any kind of crafting, right, an artisan type job, all of these body intelligence shows up. So classroom life, maybe this is the person that is really into theater unexpectedly, and not necessarily just being an actor, but also a lot of the background things, right? Because again, you're using your hands. So we have someone that does the tech, the audio visual side. We have someone that does the actual stage set and things. So it's a lot, right? More recently, getting into these Lego competitions and things that can go all the way from workspace down to the classroom because it's official competitions. And I mean, it's a tour. I think I saw something come into the Dallas area soon called the Brick Fest. I mean, it's just a lot. There's a lot of different aspects to that for sure. So, let me go back for body smart, thinking about times where we have to sit still. So because they're really into and tend to and prefer doing things with their hands, they also tend to be okay because again, if it's building with Legos, if it's creating something, so it could be even cooking, right? Which everyone's at home, so we need to eat, so they can help out there. But they might be missing their physical side, that physical education side, because they're not able to play and move around as much, depending, especially when it had been below freezing and things outside here. So intrapersonal intelligence, again, the understanding of self. So depending on that, y'all, again, between intrapersonal and intrapersonal, those are the two biggest, especially in the workspace, that often need the most developing. Because if intrapersonal is that self-awareness, and there really is no awareness of how you're presenting, how your interactions with people, right? And we know we have different types of people, quote unquote, in our workspaces, whether it's supervisors, uh, colleagues that are peers, or even subordinates. If it's fluctuating exchanges and interactions, if there's not a certain consistency or you're not mindful of that. So all of this is connected to the intrapersonal, right? Just that self-awareness for how regarding you is coming out, like what's driving and what's motivating you and it's impacting the exchanges and the interactions. That's why it's directly connected to interpersonal, right, in the workspace. So again, the interpersonal again is those interactions that you're having with others. How is going? Um, is it consistent? Are we able to look at those multiple perspectives? All of that. Intrapersonal intelligence in the classroom at home is often basically even thinking about, it encompasses all the other seven, right? Because even if it's a young person, they know, you know what? Well, I know I'm not going to be able to go outside and play today, but what else can I do to move around? Because I know I kind of need to move around. Can I do something else with my hands? Can I do some building? Can I help cook? Some of the things we just talked about, right? And so, again, at home, that does impact the interpersonal because, again, if they have that awareness, right, then maybe they'll approach their interactions a different way. Like, I really kind of want to do something, move something within reason. Maybe it can only be a board game for a certain amount of time because maybe my adult still has to work from home, right? Maybe I can FaceTime someone for a little bit just because I wanted to talk to somebody, but I know that I also need to help conserve the power in things. So it's just an overall awareness for these different ways that they can show up. Excuse me. All right, y'all, last one. Again, natural intelligence, naturalist intelligence. So maybe in the classroom, sometimes this is why some teachers have pets or plants, just making sure that, there's again that connection to nature. But maybe in adult life, maybe you like to have, plants at your desk in your workspace. Maybe this person, if they have some free time, they like to go on walks, right? Maybe they like to do some cleaning and volunteering in different community areas. Maybe they love microscopes, telescopes, and binoculars just so they can see, again, aspects of nature that we don't readily see with our own eye all the time. So again, in this wintertime, this winter storm experience, this can be a little bit different as well because, okay, maybe we can use the binoculars, microscope, telescope, those things, but they weren't going to be able to go for walks in natural environments or do cleaning projects for in community service things. But maybe, depending, that could be one of those moments where the VR and AR, that virtual reality and augmented reality could be impactful. Because maybe you put your goggles on and you pretend that you're in a natural environment walking. And that could be helpful and restorative, right, for people at that time. Y'all, so I hope that, again, this made some sense and brought some perspective, right? I had a conversation with a fellow consultant friend, Carla, of Transcend Learning. And one day she mentioned, and she just clarified it, she summarized it a certain way. She said that the biggest in practice in pedagogy is that we facilitate compliance. And I paused, but just for a quick moment, because, pedagogy is really the general art and science of teaching. But in general, not just in young people's lives, but again, in our classroom life, workspace life, home life, how often, excuse me, in a person's life is the goal really just compliance versus cultivating and curating a real knowledge and awareness, whether it's a knowledge and awareness of self, a knowledge and awareness of, the environment that they're in at that time. How often is it compliance versus a genuine engagement, I'll say, in connection. So that's really why we're here, y'all, because we want to make sure that in our work, we're adding value by providing that insight and creating those relational ninjas, right? Like we like to say, y'all are our relational ninjas, because there's so many avenues of genius. So most people have about three dominant areas, at least three dominant areas that show up. But I think we're starting to grow out of where we're leaning so heavily on testing and valuing logic, mathematical smarts over the others. I mean, it's ruled the land for long enough, honestly. So there's a lot more emphasis and appreciation behind creativity. And again, to me, that's directly connected to these multiple intelligences, because once we have an awareness of all these 7 other lanes that people can operate literally in their zones of genius, and they're all contributing and adding value. I mean, then why will we not? Why will we not work to develop and grow these things, right? So, y'all, the last couple things I want to say, y'all, we're wrapping up. Just making sure that we're continuing to give space and time, y'all, to nurture these smarts, these types of intelligences, and extending grace while we're learning, right? While we're learning, and making sure that those smarts are being refined. Because the level and the type of community dynamics, I mean, can you imagine how amazing the intrapersonal and interpersonal, I mean, those intelligences, like the more we develop those, can you imagine just what kind of community dynamics could exist, right? Because if those are the two, like the two that we really, really pour into, because we're finding this work that those are the two most lacking, that self-awareness and then that knowledge, right? When you're interacting with others, can you imagine truly what the community, what the village could look like, what could exist? So also in that same breath, though, I need us to be clear that by not reminding, not making people aware, of again their multifaceted selves, y'all. I mean, can you imagine the detriment and disservice that we're actually doing by not allowing people to build on their strengths, right? So I'll pause there. Y'all, my name is Anika S. Jones, and please say the S, right? Shout out to Robin Kelton, who calls me Anika S. Baby Jones. Y'all know I'm from New Orleans, right? And I'm serving as the lead consultant of Holistic Fluency. Y'all, this social emotional agility work that we do, I mean, it's required at various levels of community. So campuses, districts, general organizations, and businesses, because we found that support, awareness, communication, leadership, and collaborative challenges, I mean, they exist at all those levels, and that's where we add value, right? So information about multiple intelligences is going to be linked to the video, right? And particularly a resource from WellMind that has a list and a graphic to go with the 8 types as well. It's one of our favorite graphics for this. But again, please do not forget to follow us on all platforms. Sign up to receive the free resources that we have. Check out some of those podcasts we talked about earlier. And soon, and very soon, hint, hint, wink, wink, right? You'll be invited to do a deep dive to share your findings about your types of smart. Again, we always want to build awareness, y'all, and add to, right? So, again, please do use the link so you can find out if you haven't done this before, right? What are your types of multiple intelligences? Most people, we said, have 3 main types. If you're unaware, please do use the link so you can learn yours, and you'll be invited to share soon. Thank you for joining, y'all, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Mm-mm.